You cheated, didn't you? You cheated. I am 100% positive that you watched the last video, which if you haven't watched the last video, you should watch the last video. I will put a card up there in the corner and you can click on that. And you cheated. You shot through paper and then you adjusted a bunch of stuff because your paper tears were horrible. And you rushed it. Well, guess what? You don't need to watch this video then. Did you solve your problem? We've got the log of woolen tonight again. It's a, it's my favorite. I just struggle. Like I had that maple bourbon thing the other night. A bunch of people made fun of me in the comments. So I'm breaking out the Real Man whiskey tonight. We're going to get into some seriously redneck stuff tonight. There is one of these maneuvers that I am going to recommend that I don't actually recommend that you do. But I know you're going to do it anyway because I used to do it. Without further ado, episode number 2, How to Not Suck at Archery in 2021. I probably forgot this tip and I should have included it in the first one. Lay your bow on the ground and then measure your D-loop. What you're looking for is the knocking point that's on the string. And what we're looking for, basically, pick the spot on the top cam and the spot on the bottom cam that's about the same. And unless you're shooting like a prime where the D-loop is not actually in the center, take it to the shop because you picked a bow that is extremely complicated to work on. So you lay your bow on the ground, stretch the tape out. Let's say it's 28 inches. Then what you're looking for is the center of the string is 14 inches. Does your D-loop roughly line up with that? I would argue that it could be a little bit higher than that. Like on the Matthews, it seems to like a slightly higher knocking point. But if it's lower than that, I don't know any of the bows that like a low knocking point. So just throwing that out there. Another thing is if your D-loop is super frayed, you know what, if your D-loop is frayed even a little bit, go on Amazon or go to one of the shops, order you some D-loop material, and watch one of the videos on how to tie a D-loop. It's a good thing to learn how to do, especially if you're going to go in the field and not know how to do it. You can take some of that extra material with you, and just in case something happens. You never know. You never know. All right, so you're all good there. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to figure out if your arrow is relatively level. You know, we talked about the burger hole and it kind of being through the burger hole. So we're going to take it kind of to the next step. Put your bow up into a door jamb. We're going to assume that the builders built your house relatively level. So put it in that door jamb and then take your level and gently rest it on your arrow. Now it's going to bend the arrow down a little bit, but again, we're chiseling away, so we're not looking at perfection. What we're looking for is something horrible. If the arrow is pointed slightly downhill, I would argue that's probably okay to start with. If the arrow is pointing uphill, that is not a good place to start. So you would either need to lower your rest, as long as it's not going to take it too far out of the burger hole, or you're going to want to raise your knocking point. These are so general that I'm sure anyone who's watching me with any experience is just like, oh my gosh, this is so much more complicated than this. I get it. I get it, guys. This is the quick and dirty. We're doing the quick and dirty right now. We're going to move over to the arrows briefly. How do your knocks do? When you're snapping your knock onto the arrow string, does it make a nice click? This is one of those ones where you're like, well, what's it supposed to sound like? I don't know how to describe it. I would say that if it snaps on with a moderate amount of authority, where you can turn your bow upside down and kind of go like this and it doesn't fall off, then that's probably good. If it takes like a good solid pull to actually pull it off of your loop, that's not great. That's not what you want. So it's kind of that in between. So snaps on with a moderate amount of authority, if that helps you remotely at all. So the next thing we're going to do is check the actual straightness of your arrows. And again, this is a super janky way to do it. If you don't want to do it this way for the rest of your life, you can spend $10 and order one of these spinners that I've got right here. Literally, I think it was $10, and it's perfectly adequate. It's not fancy, but it gets the job done. So let's say you don't have an arrow spinner. What you're going to do is go to the corner of your table. You're going to rest the arrow on the corner of the table so that the point is hanging off of one side and that the vanes and fletchings are hanging off of the other. This isn't perfect because if you have a wrap or if there's a graphic on the arrow that's raised, it creates some problems. But again, we're going to get a general idea here. Start rolling that sucker toward the edge and look at the tip of the arrow. Is it spinning relatively smoothly? Again, we're not looking for perfection. Is it spinning relatively smoothly? Sure. Okay. Good start. If it looks like it's all wobbly, like this, or even less, like this one, you may want to consider some new arrows, because if you're trying to shoot stuff straight, maybe the field tips are going to have enough forgiveness, but as soon as you switch over to broadheads, it is going to be a disaster. This last one I'm so hesitant to tell you, but I'm going to tell you anyway. And I'm going to tell you a few places in your house that you can do this with less risk. But if you roll the string off because you decide to torque the bow and mess it around, don't blame this on me. But when you go to the shop, tell them they owe me 10% of whatever the fee is that they're charging you to fix the bow because you did some real redneck stuff. If you have an exterior door that has a 4-screw hinge, something a little more durable. If you have a banister that has a newel post, which is the fat post, not the little spindly post, please don't do it on the spindly posts. Better on like a deck outside if you've got a post that's sunk in the ground. I still can't believe I'm even saying this stuff. You're going to tie a piece of paracord or some other kind of string or rope. I say string. String is not the answer. Do not use string. Some kind of rope that is actually going to be strong enough for you to pull against the bow. I can't believe I'm saying this stuff out loud. You're going to check your cam timing. And this is going to be, it's going to be a little difficult for you to actually do this correctly. But again, we're just doing this at the house. You're looking for if it's really bad. Well, you should be able to tell. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to pull the bow to full draw. And remember, at the end of the draw cycle, it's going to be hard and then it's going to get easy because we are working on compound bows. So at the end, it's going to be very easy. If you let the bow go, it's going to fly into whatever thing you have it tied to. Please do not do that. I still cannot believe that I'm actually recommending this, but we're going to continue to go forward. Here's what you're looking for. You got the bow at full draw. You're going to start moving the bow back and forth a little bit, and you're going to look back and forth at those cams, and you're going to try to see when the modules, when the string stops or the limb stops are touching. And what you're looking for is, are they touching at the same time? This may take you a little bit. You may have to bring in your wife, who's going to look at you like you're a crazy person. And you're going to have to say, like, okay, how far away is it right now? You know, an eighth of an inch. Okay, cool. I'm an eighth of an inch as well. That's fine. Slowly let the bow down, and then you can move on to the next phase. So this, again, is like the 8th grade version of what we're doing here. If your cam timing is off, literally if it's off even an eighth of an inch, it is going to make the next parts of what we're doing very difficult, and it is now worth taking the bow to a shop and saying, hey, I think my cam timing is off. I need to get this adjusted, and then spending some time at the shop. And I know we're trying to do everything without going in, but unless you have a bow press, you can't really adjust your cam timing. So you got to take it in. Let's say it was perfect. Let's say it was hitting exactly like you want to. We're going to move on to the next step, which is now shooting through paper again. We're going to find out if this is you or if it's the bow. And the answer is going to be, we won't know for at least 3 more videos. Welcome to the channel. We're going to be hanging out for a little while. So here's what you're going to do now. Set up your paper in a grid. And I like to give myself an aiming point. Like, draw a little line across the top. Figure out where the arrows are actually hitting so that you can put some marks on there. And I think it creates a little bit of a... you're going to be a little bit more intentional about what you're doing. And what I want you to do, and again, this has to be done subtly. Shoot your normal grip. Okay, and shoot it right in the middle of the paper. And then on the left-hand side of the paper, I want you to torque that grip just a hair to the left. Just a hair, and then shoot it. If you go too much, you will roll the string off the cable, and that's not the intention. The intention is slight grip pressure to the left. And then you're going to move to the right-hand side of the paper, and you're going to do the exact same thing again. And what we're looking for is your grip very negatively affecting your tune? And this, even with me last night, I realized that what I've been doing, because I put a quiver on the side, I realized that my thumb pressure has been too much. And I actually shot both of my bucks back because I was adding too much thumb pressure. And what I realized by just doing this simple exercise, again, I was using a bare shaft, so I backed up a little bit further. And what I realized was that with basically just focusing on a little bit of index finger pressure, more than what my brain is telling me I'm kind of intrinsically used to, those tears cleaned right up. But I think this will give you a really good indication of how much your grip is influencing what you're doing. Paper tuning is a wonderful tool. I'll get out and paper tune. Like I'm going back and forth between arrows so much, just kind of messing around. I'm paper tuning a fair amount of the time. All of a sudden, when you get to a good paper tear, you're starting to see that sucker take form, whatever beautiful, magical archery sculpture that you have created. Hopefully I'll put some really amazing picture of like a real janky sculpture in right here. So the next step, now that we've kind of got the basics done, after you get done with that paper, pull that paper, recognize what you've been doing with your grip and seeing if there's any tweaks that you need to make. And I want you to think about one more thing, which is facial pressure. I have seen so many guys that they just bear down on that string, like that sucker just eating into their cheek. If you have a huge beard, those types of things. I want to see how much that influences your shot. Because there are pros that they jam that thing right in there, but they're able to do it so consistently. But look at how easily your peep is influenced at full draw by just a little bit of a difference in facial pressure. So a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, and downrange it makes a huge difference. So whenever I watch the majority of the pros, they aren't digging that stuff into their face. Like they are basically, the string is touching the corner of their mouth, touching the tip of their nose, and it is set off. And basically what all they're doing is their body is a framework for the bow that is perfectly straight and perfectly vertical, and that string is coming back perfectly straight and perfectly vertical. The amount of influence that they are trying to have is zero. They're trying to just allow the bow to do what it is supposed to do, which is send that knock straight forward through that rest and out of the bow. It seems like it would be so easy, but for some reason we humans just continue to get in the way, and we continue to influence the arrow in negative ways. We're going to go deeper. We're going to get crazier. It's going to get more interesting. We're going to talk about arrows. We're going to talk about bare shaft tuning, walk back tuning. We're going to go through the entire thing. I'm going to pour every bit of knowledge that I have gained as an 8th grader into these videos. And along this journey, what it is allowing me to do is go back and verify this knowledge for myself. I still pull up a paper tuning chart when I'm doing this. I just want to have it open there so that if something's getting wonky, I can just go, what is happening? Why is my brain not working? And I can look, left tear. These are the options. These are the things that you can do. There's no shame in opening those charts up and looking at them. Just do it. All right. That was all for tonight. I hope that tonight you suck less at archery. Thanks for watching. I'm Brandon McDonald. How many people are horribly uncomfortable with the fact that I smoke in some of my hunting clothes? When you're snapping your neck onto the arrow string, I had broccoli for dinner, and Jocelyn warned me that it was going to make me gassy. And I am indeed gassy currently. Right now it's coming up this way. I'm hoping that when we get in bed later, it's going the other way and I can pull the covers over her head. She would be horrified if she watched this, which is why I will put it at the end of the video where she never watches, because she stops them early. You have to get it into a bow. Oh, hello. Hi there. By the way, that's how I do the dramatic lighting. It's right next to me, just kind of blazing across me. This thing was like $30, so don't be impressed. Very negative. Oh, there's the gas again.